Welcome to Behind the Mic, a podcast from the Concrete Foundations Association featuring discussions with some of the leading professionals in today's concrete industry. This series features interviews recorded at the World of Concrete 2020 conference in Las Vegas. And in this episode, Sean Smith, Vice President of MPW Construction Services in Wellington, Ohio, discusses his background as a second-generation wall contractor and the impact of modern technology on traditional practices. There's lots to learn with Sean behind the mic, so let's jump right in.
Well, welcome back to Behind the Mic. I'm James Beatty with the Concrete Foundations Association. This is a podcast where we get a chance to interview contractors from all around the country, concrete contractors that are walking the walk that you're walking, talking the talk that you're trying to get out there, and in general, just interested in sharing their knowledge. And today I have a chance of sitting down with Sean Smith, Vice President for MPW Construction Services. He's in Wellington, Ohio, which is kind of the greater Cleveland market. Sean, good afternoon. Welcome to the Behind the Mic.
Hi, James. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Man, it's good to get in touch with you and to be in this podcast. We find ourselves, Sean, in the midst of some crazy times. This is at the start of the pandemic. You and I are connected through association membership here in the Concrete Foundations Association, and we've had a chance to kind of start walking this together and really struggling through it. But there's so much that I want to talk about with you today, but let's go with a little bit of background. You're a second generation wall contractor, owner in this business that you have in Cleveland. What reflections do you have, first of all, growing up in the business? I'm always liking to ask that of my contractors.
Oh, that's a big question. I could probably talk for the entire podcast about recalling times of my childhood and up until today. You know, my earliest memories being a second generationer. I can remember my dad doing estimates on the dining room table and crumpling up yellow notebook pad paper and throwing it in the garbage, you know, after dinner, working all of the time, really. And it's been, for me, it's been really rewarding just being able to work side by side with my father, who I'm great friends with and now business partners with. And we've had our challenges for sure along the way. But overall, I would say being a second generationer, I feel really grateful just to have the kind of relationship I have with my partner, who also happens to be my dad.
Now, you mentioned there that some of your earliest memories are him sitting at the counter, sitting at the dinner table and spreading his work out and crumpling up papers. So it was really hands-on. It was tooth and nail and papers and pen. How does that differ from how you manage your business today? And what conflicts or what compliments do you find in today's market because of it?
Well, it's much different today, for better or worse. We have devices that most all of us are connected to all of the time, whether it be a tablet, a smartphone, a laptop. It used to be that there would be a certain amount of work done at night, and the next day you'd go in and start all over again. Today, customers are calling, texting, emailing all hours of the day and expect responses immediately. And fortunate for us, we have this technology that allows us to stay really connected. It definitely is a different type of business today. What we do is very similar. We're still pouring concrete, but the way it unfolds as a process is different than 20 years ago, just due to the connectivity and availability of ourselves to our customers and to our employees. You know, they have access to us almost 24/7.
Yeah, that's really an interesting concept. And so I'm curious then, how do you establish boundaries in today's market because of that? You know, you do have 24/7 access to your employees and your customers have virtually 24/7 access to you. I know you are a new family man and raising two fantastic young men, but one young man, I should say, but boundaries are so important. How are you finding yourself dealing with that in today's marketplace?
I would say I'm not your model citizen for setting boundaries and establishing great balance. I do, however, have a pretty rigid evening schedule. I try to be home every day between 5 and 5:30, so that I have at least a couple of hours where I say to myself and to my family, I'm yours until bedtime. And then I tend to pick it up and check my emails and handle business after the kids go to bed. But for me, there are a couple of things that are important that I don't miss unless it's an absolute must miss. When I'm home at 5:30 for dinner and sitting around the dinner table with my family is the time where I give them my attention. And I make that a point every day, no matter what's going
Mm.
on. The last couple of weeks are no different. It's been a stressful 10 or 12 business days, and most every day I've been home by 5:30 to help make dinner and spend those couple of hours with my family. It's really important. That part of my life is really important. And then when they go to bed, I can get back to work if I need to.
Now, you, as vice president for MPW, and you've got a healthy workforce behind you, supporting you, you're leading them, you and your dad together, and the other managers there at MPW. How do you translate that message to your employees to get them brought into that mindset that you do have to establish boundaries, but you also have to honor the work requirements that you have of a growing business?
Good question. We don't have rules or policies in place about that, but our employees do know that I am a family man and that it is important that we all have family time. We don't ask our people to work late into the evening. We don't expect that they're connected all of the time. If it's an emergency, we hope that they'll pick up the phone and call us. But most of the folks in our business know that once their day is done, they can go home and unplug. Most of our people are not living by their phone. That's just the luxury of owners and top brass. Most of the rest of our people know that when they go home, they don't have to be plugged in the way I do or our top brass does.
Which is important, knowing you the way I know you. You have great respect and appreciation, and really even a professional love for your workforce. It is important to you. How do you characterize the value of focusing in today's age on your workforce as a critical asset to your company?
We, just before the coronavirus hit our shores, we were in the middle of substantial effort to provide training for all of our men to be better leaders. We were doing leadership training, getting ready to pull the trigger on different, several different sessions with different trainers to talk about training and how to be a good leader and how to treat our people that work below us and above us, and really trying to continue to improve our culture. It's really important that we have a cohesive culture, top to bottom, bottom to top. And unfortunately, we've put that on hold. The training and the efforts that we were getting ready to engage, we've put that on hold for the near future because we're responding to all of the coronavirus bulletins that are coming out daily. And I'm trying to focus on keeping our people healthy and safe around the virus right now.
I'm glad you brought us to that point, because that was really what I wanted to get into with you, because that's where we've been spending a lot of our time lately together, is really working on the ramifications of COVID-19 and how it's both affecting the workplace, affecting your course of doing business, and at the same time, from an administrative perspective, really creating a lot of challenges to you. And I know that a lot of our organizations, a lot of companies that are out there in the marketplace as contractors, maybe don't have the mindset, the ability to really stop and think of how it's going to impact them from an administrative perspective. So I was hoping that we could spend some time just kind of talking about transitions that you're making, emergency implementations where they are. One of them, obviously, is how do you protect your workforce? And the in vogue comment or the description that's thrown out there regularly is social distancing. And so the first thing when a contractor hears social distancing is the idea, well, my guys have to work together. How in the world am I supposed to keep them apart? What are you guys doing from that perspective?
That has been our world for the last 10 days. We have been spending countless hours as a team writing policy and trying to consider ways that we can keep our people safe and social distance as much as possible. It was just this past Sunday that our governor put a stay at home policy in place where he's mandated that everyone that's not an essential business in the state of Ohio stay home. Fortunately for us in the construction world, we're deemed essential. I say fortunate because we get to keep working. But because we get to keep working, it means we have to do an awful lot of an awful lot of planning and putting measures and policies in place to keep our people safe, from really small things that you might never think about to very large changes in the way we do our business. And we have We started by targeting the most at-risk folks who we consider to be the most at-risk folks in our business. We have many CDL drivers that are just by their age more prone to being hit with COVID. And one of the very first things we did was we prevented those employees from coming to our office in the morning, in the evening. They don't step foot in our office. They go right to their vehicle every morning. Then they text that they're in, and they get their orders via text, and they get out of our yard without seeing any other employees. Very big change for us. It seems small, but it's just a big cultural shift. And we've done so many things that are small like that have made big impacts on our ability to social distance our employees. The guys that are setting walls or pulling flat work for us, they rarely come into our office. Their crew leader comes in the morning to a very restricted area, get their jobs for the day. They leave, then they leave the office and gather their supplies and leave. So most of our employees aren't even getting access to our office just to prevent high traffic in our office. We've provided all of our vehicles with disinfectant spray bottles that anyone that's driving a vehicle is disinfecting their vehicle multiple times a day. We went to so far as 3 days ago we went out and bought enough 1 gallon jugs of water and individual bars of soap that we packaged into Ziploc bags and gave every single employee a bar of soap, a gallon of water, and mandated that they wash their hands as many times as they need to during the day just to
Mhm.
keep themselves sanitized. Small measures, but they all take time and effort. We recently, I guess it was Tuesday of this week, mandated that anyone that isn't a driver of our normal vehicles, they drive to the job. That's a huge change for our people. We have always thought that it'd be beneficial to our employees to come to our office in the morning, punch in, get into one of our company vehicles and drive to the job, saving wear and tear on our employees' vehicles. There are lots of benefits to that. And it was a really hard decision that we had to make to ask our employees to drive their own vehicles to the job to social distance. Very simple on paper, but it's a difficult task. We do have folks there are guys that can't drive. They don't have licenses or don't have vehicles. In that case, we bought, we just, I think we took delivery today of 50 or 100 bandanas because you cannot get your hands on N95 masks or frankly any respirator dust mask. You cannot buy them. So we bought bandanas for guys that are going to be ride sharing to put a bandana around their nose and their mouth. It's certainly not going to protect them ultimately, but it's one thing that we can do to help mitigate the spread of fluid if a guy coughs. So we're doing all kinds of things that take time and effort that are someone has to do it to keep our people as safe as possible.
Absolutely. They say so often that performance and productivity are connected to morale. And so, as you're making these implementations, as you're assessing your workplace and you're asking your workers to work in different ways, in new ways, in really, in many cases, foreign ways, how do you see the investment that you're taking in their health affecting their morale, which may then produce a positive impact to their productivity?
Well, I would hope personally that our people see how hard we are working to keep them working and keep them working as safe as we can. Production and morale do go hand in hand. I'm not sure exactly how to answer the question, but I'll say that in a press conference, our governor's having press conferences at 2 o'clock every day with updates about the state of our state and health. And the director of Ohio Health, her name is Amy Acton. She used the words noble and patriotic in response to, or as a description of those that are still out working and who were deemed essential workers by our governor. I think in some ways there's a lot of validity to that. Our people are risking their own health. Everyone that's out there, the nurses, the firefighters. They're all risking their health to help keep our state moving, keep our economy moving. And I hope in the long run, it may not pay off. There is a certain amount of fear that our employees still have about working. But as we get through this and we keep moving and we get further into the center or away from the center of this pandemic, the things that we've done as a group for our employees, with our employees, I think that will ultimately be a plus for morale and overall company boost for me and for what our people think of each other working together. I hope, anyways, that they really see the value in what they're bringing to those that aren't working now. Our guys, our people, our men, our women, we're all answering the call for our company and for everyone else to stay in business. And I think it's vital that we keep working as a team, show up every morning, even when we're not feeling our best internally or emotionally, to show up with a smile and know that our coworker is doing the best they can and just be support and go to work. There are
Mm.
thousands, if not millions, of people that are not able to do that, and their fear is totally different than our fear today. There's relief and comfort in being able to come to the office and stay in a little bit of my routine. And I would hope that our people have a little bit of that relief, being able to be in a routine that's comforting.
So that routine is important, and certainly one of the transitions that's taking place in the business world is the work from home, because one of the easiest ways to protect the white collar workforce is to send them home, give them a home office, give them the tools necessary. Your business is really challenged by that. You and I have talked a little bit that you're not able to completely deliver that for your office staff. And so you've been able to do great steps for the workers that are out in the field and create space for them, create protections. How is this challenge being met for you then with your management, your estimating, and project managers?
So when we spoke yesterday, I think you had asked me how many of our folks are working from home, and when I answered, I was not thinking really clearly about the truth and the facts. We do have, I would say at this point, probably 30% of our office staff is working from home at least 75% of the time. We have both two or three of our estimators are working at home almost full time exclusively. They may come in after hours when no one's around, after the office has been disinfected, and pick up documents that they might need. And we figured out a way just here in the last 24 or 48 hours to provide work from home for three other people. No, I'm sorry, two other people, cloud solutions dialing into our server remotely, where we're not so worried about hackers and cyber security. But it's been a challenge. One of the things I think my business is blessed, we're blessed. We have lots of space. Our offices are not open style where there are multiple people sitting in the same little bullpen area. Just by the design of our office, we're able to easily keep most of our people safe and at 6 foot social distancing without much trouble. But we've found a way to grant a few extra people access to our network remotely. And with those few people out of the office, it creates more room for distancing and fewer people in the office to worry about disinfecting behind every day. It's been a challenge, but we're working through it.
Yeah, so much of the parallel that's being created right now, we have COVID-19, and that brings a lot of great health risks and transitions in business that you've talked about and trying to protect workforce. There's also an economic side to this. And you've mentioned a couple of times now being able to stay at work to keep your employees earning a wage and contributing to the goals of both your company and the customers that you're performing for. But there's some really strong parallels in what we're seeing from an economic pressure perspective to what you endured 10 or so years ago with what has been labeled the Great Recession. What do you recall from that time period? I know that you had a business in Western Pennsylvania where you guys had expanded. What did you learn from that you're being able to apply today in this COVID-19 environment?
One of the things I think we've learned is we're taking everything a day at a time and focusing on the most
Mhm.
important thing right now. I feel really grateful that our business is structured in a way that with enough great people that they can focus on doing their job to keep our customers happy and allow a different team of people to focus on the COVID spread and how we're going to handle it. We One of the things we learned about the Great Recession that is different from our current situation is we have plenty of work right now in our schedule. There hasn't been a mass exodus of contracts at this point for my business, for our business. And we've been overly communicating with our customers, and they've been really receptive of delays, which is different than any time in recent history. When there were delays up until 3 months ago, they might be looking for someone else to do the work. But I'm really grateful that so far everyone seems like we're all in the same situation and understanding that there are going to be delays when something's put on schedule. We can't help when an employee gets sick that it might impact our schedule. And so far, our customers have been receptive to that. One of the biggest common denominators from the Great Recession and today is just the stress level and concern about our business, overall business, long term business, and how to handle and how to make sure we're making the best decisions for our people. When the Great Recession hit, we had to let lots of really great people go, and it was no fault of their own. There just wasn't enough business to keep everybody employed. A different kind of concern, but still a concern. Now we're spending lots of energy and time how to keep our best asset, our people employed and keeping them safe. It's a different situation, but very much the same concern, our people, and how to help them be safe. So the parallels are there. The very challenging times in business, but they are different. And for me, at least right now, we have enough business. It's just a matter of how do we keep our people safe getting the business done? How do we satisfy our customers and make sure we all go home to the people we love at the end of the day?
Right. And having come through that not too far in the distant past, does it give you a sense of confidence in the ability to take on this new challenge?
Yes, it's interesting you asked the question in that manner. For the last 8 business days, I've been waking up very fearful about what might happen in my business, in our business, and what might happen in our economy. Almost every morning, waking up with that, what's next? What's going to be the crisis of the day? And quite literally, we have spent almost every day, all day, working on crisis prevention and crisis management. And just 2 or 3 hours ago, after lunch, I don't remember having this thought until today, that a glass half full thought that we're going to be okay. We've got really great people working really hard to get us through this. And I think, I hope I'm trying to train my brain to staying with the glass half full and thinking that by the end of 2020, I'm hoping that March, April, and May are just a blip in our past. And if that's true, then having some positive thought today is just a step in the right direction. Everywhere you look, health scares, it's a real problem. We're in the middle of a pandemic. But for me, being in a fear position all day, every day is not going to be helpful. So having just that moment today after lunch where I realized at some point this is going to be a blip, just like 2008, 9, 10, 11 now are a blip. They were very difficult going through it, but we got to the other side and it's just a part of our history now. And I'm optimistic that this is going to be very much the same. And I'm going to choose to try and be that way.
Of course, I know you well enough to know you're a board member of the association. Your dad's a past board member, past president of the association. I can't really let you get out of this interview without a chance to talk about the benefit of the association that wraps around you and that positivity that you talk about. How much do you assume that kind of wells out of that connection that you have to colleagues around the country?
I can tell you it's going to be hard for me to quantify, but I'll just share with you an example of what I get and how it's helpful for me. Sunday, when the order came down from the governor, I immediately reached out to a handful of my friends that I've made in the CFA, fellow business owners, and said, here's my situation. And within an hour, I had 2 or 3 different policies overall COVID policies, how other contractors were handling it. And we talked through whether or not they were going to maintain being open, how they were going to handle the entire situation. So I went from feeling like I was going to be in this COVID mess all by ourselves for our own business to figure out, to within an hour of realizing that we're actually all going to be in it together. And they were sharing with me their information about this immediate need, which that worked for this need. And I can say that this very similar example, I've called on the CFA and my friends in the CFA countless times, dozens, hundreds of times, and they've always answered the phone and called me back and or emailed me back right away and said, this is what I'm going through, and this is how I handled a situation similar to what you're going through. It's an association, it's a friendship, a kinship that I just cannot quantify in dollars. It is something that is really helpful, one of the most beneficial decisions I know my dad ever made for me, and he didn't even make the decision to join the CFA for me. He did it for himself and our business 20 years ago, and it's still paying for me today. Business leadership, all of the countless things that I get out of being in relationships with people that are in a very similar business. It's not something that I can quantify in dollars and cents. It's real life. It's real life relatable, valuable, invaluable relationships that I've made.
Well, and really, this is a perfect example. You just never know what's going to come down the pike. There are some that say that we should have seen what was happening in China, been able to be prepared and staffed up and resourced up to endure what it was going to, how it was going to impact the United States. But we had no idea the way that the states were going to have to declare state emergencies and how that was going to impact your business, because you've never encountered this. And so it means a lot to me to hear you talk about the network that pivots that quickly to support where it needs to be. And that's what I've sensed from you in this issue. There was a key comment that you made earlier about one day at a time. And it's so easy to get down deep into the weeds of your business to where you feel like the tail is wagging you rather than you leading the business. So, how does COVID-19 really respond to your ability to think proactively for your company one day at a time?
Recently, it's been putting out one fire at a time.
Mhm.
There are so many ways that we could go. What we could be doing is innumerable. And so what we've done is every day picked off the two or three most important things for that day and focused on doing them really well. And when we're done with those two or three tasks, make a list for tomorrow, knowing that list might be completely different when we come in tomorrow, and that's okay. But instead of worrying
Mhm.
about every problem, we're really trying to focus on the problem right in front of us right now. And that's really all we can do, anyways. I can't predict what's going to happen. Revisionist history is nice to have that ability to look back and say, I wish we would have done this and this, but we don't have that luxury. So it helps me keep a glass half full attitude if I'm picking off the three most important things today and getting them complete and just really tackling the events as they come. Otherwise, the tail would wag this dog, that's for sure. If I tried to tackle all the problems all at once, I'd probably end up not getting anything done. We, as my team, we wouldn't achieve the things that we need to achieve because we're worried about putting out every fire instead of the biggest fire today.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. If you had one thing to say to your colleagues that are out there, and understanding that your colleagues range from the owner operator to the larger contracting business that you find yourself in, what would you say to the market, to those contractors that are really reeling? They may be as busy as you, they may be somewhere in between, but they're really reeling at this time.
Whew, that's a big question too, Jim. I think if I had to pick one thing to say, it really would be to focus on what you can change right now and what you can do about your situation right now. Take that problem, take that challenge, and find a solution. And then focus on the next challenge and find the best solution for you and for your business. We're going to be confronted with challenges daily, I believe, going forward, at least in the near term. And if we pick the most difficult challenge and complete it, it gives us a shot to deal with the next challenge. And the glass is half full. Those of you that are going to hear this, I'm hoping to hear myself and not sound foolish when I hear the replay. We really only have today, and I can choose my attitude. And if I keep my attitude half full and positive, the people around me are likely going to be more positive, and that is a domino effect. That's a real domino effect with the people around us as we try to be leaders in our life. Our ability to say, I'm going to be positive today, really will impact those around us, whether we think that or not. I believe that to be true. And so showing up with a smile, even when I know it's going to be a tough day, I believe it's my job to show up with a smile for our people and lead with a smile, even when times are tough. It's a lot easier to do that than the alternative.
Sean, thanks very much for your time. I appreciate connecting, taking time out of your busy schedule to share some of your, oftentimes guys like you don't see it as words of wisdom, but to share your struggle. You've been real, and I appreciate the struggle that you're enduring and your opportunity to share that with us tonight. Sean Smith, Vice President of MPW Construction Services in Wellington, Ohio. Here on Behind the Mic, I'm James Beatty with the Concrete Foundations Association. We're going to continue with these podcasts, and I hope you get a chance to listen to this one, listen to some of the others that we've got cataloged, and maybe you'll find yourself sitting here behind the mic with me one day. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Behind the Mic is brought to you by the Concrete Foundations Association. You can learn more about us and about becoming one of our #CFA Concrete Pros by visiting our website, cfaconcretepros.org. If you're a concrete professional interested in being part of a future podcast, reach out to us by email to info@cfaconcretepros.org to start a conversation. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Behind the Mic.